let's check out Eternatus. This is my third take. Welcome back, everyone, to more from the Sableye. I'm Mitch, and today we're going to take a look at a deck that has obviously already been featured on the channel. Slightly different. It is Eternatus VMAX, but this is the deck list that Tord Reklev recently posted on his Twitter account. It is a really cool variation on the list, and definitely a good starting point if you're looking for a deck that's super consistent and super easy to take knockouts with. Eternatus VMAX obviously already featured on the channel, but this deck could potentially be the direction it goes in. We'll check it out on PTCGO. So this is the list that Tord posted recently on his Twitter, and it is super good, super consistent, and a really good place to start when you are playing Eternatus VMAX. 340 HP is a huge amount of HP to have. Eternal Zone, an excellent ability, and Dread End, a really good attack. Let's talk about them very briefly. We've obviously already featured them many times before, but it can't hurt to go over them once more. Eternal Zone allows us to play up to 8 bench Pokemon if we have Eternatus VMAX in play. They all have to be Dark Pokemon, and we can't play any other Pokemon other than Dark, so all of the Pokemon on our list are obviously going to be Dark Pokemon, and that's really good for us, because it means that we've got a few options within our deck that we can kind of utilize. Not too flexible, but there are a lot of good Dark Pokemon at the moment. That's why the set's called Darkness Ablaze. And Dread End, a super strong attack for Dark and Colorless Energy, does 30 times the amount of Pokemon that you have in play, Dark Pokemon that you have in play, which can go up as high as 270 with 9 Pokemon in play, 1 of the active, and 8 on the bench. So 270 damage, a super solid amount. We run a 4-4 line here with 4 copies of Crobat V, obviously very expensive to run this deck, but then there's also a slightly different attacking core that is outside of that. Eternatus, we've featured Hooper before on the channel. Tord opting instead to go for Spiritomb with Building Spite and Anguish Cry, a really good one-prize attacker that can hit as high as 160 damage if there are 5 damage counters on the Spiritombs. Every turn we can tick a damage counter onto Spiritomb with Building Spite and then try and get some knockouts on things like the Dene GX or even some Pokemon that have been hit before. So there's 3 copies of Spiritomb in here, and we also have 1 copy of the channel mascot, Sableye V, with Crazy Claws 10 plus 60 for every damage counter that is on your opponent's active Pokemon. Now, the thing that this allows us to do is there's a really cool kind of combo that we can get where Sableye V is on the bench, Eternatus V is in the active, we attack for Power Accelerator and attach a Dark Energy to our Sableye, and that means we can potentially put 30, 40, 50 damage with Zigzagoon ticks and with Vitality Band, 50 or so damage on our opponent's Pokemon, which will allow Crazy Claws to come in and take a knockout in the endgame. So it's a really cool combination. It's a nice little attacker for if your opponent has stalled you out a little bit. It's not going to come up in every matchup, but it is definitely good against a lot of VMAXs. Eternatus VMAX will usually do the job for us, though. I mentioned Zigzagoon. We have 4 copies of this card in the deck. Headbutt Tantrum, a very good ability, and a generic Dark basic Pokemon that deals damage is pretty solid for us. It means that Eternatus plus a Zigzagoon can get to 280 to knock out an ADP, which is super strong. But you'll notice in the list there are no Scoop Up Net, so we can only use Zigzagoon 4 times in total. We don't have the ability to get those back. Also, there's no switches in this deck. Instead, we're relying on Hiding Darkness Energy being attached to our Pokemon, and we're relying on 3 copies of Dark City, which gives all of our basic Dark Pokemon in play free retreat. Now that means that every Pokemon in our deck has free retreat apart from Eternatus VMAX when Darkness City is in play, and if we just attach a Hiding Energy to it, then that means our Eternatus VMAX can get out of the active as well. So as long as you conserve your stadiums well, you shouldn't have to worry about switch options. The worst thing that can happen, though, is if your opponent does kind of run you out of Dark Cities and then force up something like Sableye, which has 2 retreat, and that can be a little bit awkward sometimes, but usually it's not too bad. If our opponent has a stadium in play that we don't want them to have, something like a Chaotic Swell, or maybe even just like a Viridian or something like that, we don't want to replace it with a Dark Stadium of our own, we can use Dangerous Drill, which allows us to discard a Dark Pokemon from our hand, and then discard a Pokemon tool or special energy or stadium that is in play. That means we can get rid of things like air balloons and special energy as well. A really versatile card that lots of people have been talking about, but no one's really focused on yet, toward thinking, yes, 2 copies of Dangerous Drill, a really good option. Lots of decks also have already shown off this kind of 4 Quick Ball, 4 Pokemon Communication, and 4 Great Ball engine, toward opting for 3 Great Ball here. I think that's fair, because ultimately you're going to be able to find the Pokemon that you want most of the time anyway. I've already mentioned the Vitality Band. This can be really good to get those extra damage ticks onto Pokemon that you need them on. Hitting for 40 with Power Acceleration is way better than hitting for 30, which is a weird thing to say, but it's 100% true. If you get 40 damage on to a V Pokemon that evolves into a VMAX, there's every chance that with a couple of Zigzagoon ticks you can get that one-shot knockout. So Vitality Band, really, really useful, means you have to find less Zigzagoons, and you should be able to get knockouts a bit easier. And then we look at our supporter line. We've got 4 copies of Research, 4 copies of Marnie, and 4 copies of Boss's Orders. Now, the 4 Boss's Orders is a really interesting call. It's something that not a lot of people have done so far, but Towards identified that Crobat V is really the key supporter card in this deck when you think about it. Crobat V is going to be played almost every turn to try and draw extra cards from the deck. So if we've got 4 Boss's Orders, that means we have multiple opportunities to try and find a boss to take a couple of prizes or to hit in to a Pokemon that's going to evolve into a VMAX with our Power Accelerator. You want to hit into things like Center Scorch before they evolve or Charizards, etc., without giving them an opportunity to get their attacks off. Finally, our energy. We've already spoken about the 3 Hiding Energy that are in the deck, and there are 8 Darkness. It's a pretty solid list, this one. You're going to have enough energy to get by. You're not going to be able to recycle it, though. You're going to need to make sure that you've got exactly what you need. There's no scoop-up nets. There's no Pokemon recursion. It is all about just dealing damage with Eternatus VMAX. And frankly, that's all this card really has to do. What we'll do is we'll jump across onto the ladder now and see if we can't get ourselves a game and win a couple more with Eternatus VMAX. So we are here on the ladder now. I've been playing this deck for a little while, but it is super, super powerful, and I'm winning games too quickly. My win streak here is a 0, though, which is disappointing. I'm testing out going second. I like the idea of going second in these decks. It makes it a lot more interesting, and I mean, we've got a grass deck box here, so it might not necessarily be useful in this matchup. Yeah, we are playing against Decidueye, but sometimes you can get those extra little ticks down and get some damage and energy acceleration and stuff with your Eternatus V on turn 1 if you do go second. So we'll see. We've got energy, we've got Eternatus. We're actually in a really good spot here if we find ourselves another basic, because we'll be able to play down Dark City, get Eternatus V, attach an energy. All we need to do really is find a Quick Ball or a Pokemon, and we'll be in a really strong spot. We want an Eternatus V off the top deck or a Sableye. Although, to be fair, we'd also accept a Zigzagoon, because playing against Decidueye means that we're not going to be able to deal damage with our VMAXs. So we need to make sure that we have the opportunity here. Looks like a Stellar Wish coming down from our opponent. Jirachi, obviously very useful. Grabbing a rare candy for next turn, so that's a bit awkward. They could potentially have a Decidueye as early as turn 2 here, but that's okay. We can live with that. We can accept it. As long as we get ourselves a decent start, I'm going to be a-okay, because the thing with Decidueye is it's good, but it's only good when you get a lone Decidueye, and if you get a lone Decidueye, then I can take knockouts on it with our Sableye. With our Spiritombs. So it's not too big of a problem. They've attached to the Rowlet. They've got another Jirachi here, and it is now our turn. We find a Zigzagoon. It's pretty okay, but it's not ideal. What we might do is we might just shuffle that Zigzagoon away and grab ourselves an Eternatus here. I think it's going to be fine to do. I might grab Crobat, though, actually. Oh, this is really awkward, because if I grab Crobat, then there's every chance that I miss. So I'll grab the Eternatus, because if I don't grab the Eternatus, then I might miss an attachment. So this way, I might brick myself a little bit, but at least I'm going to attack into this Jirachi here. And next turn, if our opponent does miss the Decidueye, I at least have the opportunity to take the knockout if something goes right. We'll see. This could be a little awkward, though, because we really need to set up quickly in order to take advantage of Decidueye's slow starts. If we let them go quickly, or let them set up quickly, then we're going to find ourselves in a bit of trouble pretty quickly. I've said quickly too many times. Quickly. Rare Candy coming down onto the Rowlet here. They'll evolve, and now that Rowlet cannot be knocked out by us anymore. They've got the 2 energy. Do they have the switch? They have Bird Keeper as well. Alright, so we're in a real rough spot, because now we can't take a knockout on the Rowlet, and our opponent is setting themselves up quite nicely, but we've found a Quick Ball, so that's good. We can get rid of the Eternatus VMAX here, because we don't need that really. We're going to need to grab Crobat. The worst part here is that I'm not going to be able to attach this energy to anything really important. We'll attach the Vitality Band to the active, though, and then just let it rip. We'll Great Ball, find ourselves a Spiritomb. That's really good. And then we can start getting an attacker ready. Yeah, building Spite here. The thing that's going to really suck now is that we can't realistically do too much. Oh, I shouldn't have attached that there. Sorry, I'm just in I'm in autopilot mode. I shouldn't have attached that to the Eternatus V. I should have attached it to the Spiritomb so I can attack. Now I'm going to give myself another heart attack trying to get Crobat so that I can attack with Spiritomb in the next turn or two. That's just silly. Shouldn't have done that. That's okay. We are a little while off from attacking with Spiritomb anyway, because Spiritomb obviously is going to need 4 or 5 ticks to get within range of that Decidueye. It's going to do 30 for every tick that we've got on us, and that means that if we are dealing, 10 plus 30 for every tick, then we need to have like 4 damage counters on there, plus a Zigzagoon tick to be able to take a knockout on Decidueye. So we're still a way off. It's not the end of the world, but I would have much preferred not to have done that. Here comes Turffield Stadium from our opponent. They're going to replace our Dark City here, which is frustrating, but it's not the end of the world. We've got a Dark City in hand. We've got Dangerous Drill that we can discard with our Crobat if we wish. And hopefully we can at least start taking knockouts. If we can start doing that, then we've at least got ourselves a game plan. The thing that's going to be awkward, though, is, oh yeah, Marnie. I was about to say, if they replace this stadium at some point with Wondrous Labyrinth, that could also be quite frustrating. I know these decks do run that kind of card, so it might be a little bit awkward. We are likely to see, though, an attack here with an Eternatus VMAX into a Jirachi unless they switch. We could potentially take a prize that way. Oh, and a Crobat coming from our opponent as well. There's 2 prizes that we'll be able to take later on. So it is a good thing that we've powered up Eternatus Vs here, because then at least we can take knockouts on those support Pokemon whilst we power our Spiritombs up. Best bit about the deck is that we run 3 Spiritombs, so we are going to have an opportunity to attack with 1 or 2 of them. And even if we just half hit a Decidueye, as long as our opponent doesn't have access to another one, then we should be A-okay. Our opponent hasn't played a switch yet. They aren't looking likely to play one either. We might be able to steal ourselves a prize now with an attack with our Eternatus VMAX. There's the flip, so it is our turn. Oh, and we've got Dark City off of the top deck as well. We'll play Great Ball, see what we can find. I don't like either of these Pokemon, really. What we might do is we might grab the V just so that we can discard it with the research, because we don't need any more Eternatus Vs realistically. We will play down a Zigzagoon though. We get a tick on this benched Jirachi. We might be able to steal a knockout depending on how things go. We have a boss. There's the VMAX, which is good. So now we've got ourselves all of this extra bench space. We can start using Building, Spite. We might even use Pokemon Communication here if we want, but nah, probably A-okay to just take the knockout. Really, what I could have done there is I should have benched the Spiritomb down so I at least got an extra tick on that one, because that could be a potential problem. The worst thing about having the VMAX in the active is actually the fact that Dark City doesn't work on it, so we can't attack next turn with Spiritomb even if we wanted to. And that is really going to be a bit annoying. We might have to settle for just taking a knockout on Crobat V here. Our opponent using Zigzagoon to take an extra point of damage on the Spiritomb. They're identifying that this Spiritomb isn't going to be attacking anytime soon, so it might have been a bit of a misplay for us to not bench that second one, but that's okay. We can live with it. Our opponent's not taking a knockout on our Eternatus anytime soon, so it's not a real issue. And there are 4 prizes in play that aren't Decidueye, so as long as this Eternatus VMAX stays in play, it is a threat, and it is going to take knockouts in some way, shape, or form. Looks like our opponent going with a Stellar Wish here. That probably means they've got a Switch or a Jirachi, not a Jirachi, Switch or a Scoop Up Net in their hand. They're actually grabbing Boss here as well. They just use Bird Keeper, so they won't be able to use that this turn, but it might be an option to take a knockout on a Spiritomb next turn, which would be very annoying. Let's see what happens here. I've not played another Rowlet down, which is interesting. It could be that they're struggling with not having the Rowlets, and that is causing a bit of strife. Here's a Scoop Up Net, so they are going to get that Jirachi out of the active that way. Here comes Decidueye. They're Splitting Arrow again. 90 to our active, 20 to 2 of our benched Pokemon. You'd think that there'd be 20 on Zigzagoon and Spiritomb if history is anything to go by. Having a bit of a think. Yep, there goes the damage. Alright, well, we've got the boss, so we're probably going to take a knockout on Crobat this turn. I think that seems like the most logical thing to do, but now I will bench both of these Spiritombs. We'll get rid of this Quick Ball. We can grab a Zigzagoon if we'd like. We can calm that Zigzagoon away just to empty our hand a little bit. Maybe even grab another Eternatus VMAX so that we can evolve here. And then we probably boss and play down Dark City and then Crobat for 6. Seems like a pretty solid place to be. We still have one more Dark City left in deck if Wonderlab is a card that our opponent plays. We haven't seen it yet. Doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And we've got a boss in hand for next turn as well. What we can do is we can attach to a Spiritomb down here, so we are ready to attack if our opponent doesn't take a knockout, and it's not likely that they will. It's likely that they go to 270 on the VMAX this turn. And I'm thinking they'll probably take a knockout on the Spiritomb and the Zigzagoon if they can. Jirachi into the active. Alright, let's see what happens next. We could potentially use Boss's Orders to try and take a knockout on another support Pokemon if one gets played down, but I don't think that's going to be the case. We might have to hope that our opponent can't switch this Jirachi out of the active, although to be fair, they wouldn't have played the Jirachi in the first place if they didn't have a switch. You would think that that would be a easy option for them. They wouldn't want to do that. They wouldn't want to put down a Jirachi if they didn't have a switch, although they haven't got one yet. They're going for the Marnie now, so we're going to lose this hand, which is not ideal, but they are looking for a switch. We've found an Energy and a Research here. They're grabbing Air Balloon, but that's not going to be enough to get the Jirachi out of the active. That could be a bit of a mistake here from our opponent. They've played down Turffield Stadium, so there's no Wonderlab in play just yet. They're grabbing out Dartrix here. We might be able to take a sneaky prize here on this Jirachi, especially if they can't get it out of the active. They can't. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to Building Spite a couple more times. I'm going to put 20 damage on both of these Spiritomb. I'll probably attach the energy to the other Spiritomb here and then Research. Give us the best chance to try and find the cards that we need. We could potentially Dangerous Drill to get rid of the Turffield Stadium, but we don't need to, so we'll just take the knockout. And now only 2 prizes left. If our opponent plays down another support Pokemon, all we need to do is find a boss and we can win the game, because we'll have enough energy to attack. Decidueye here from our opponent means that they are going to be able to do that 90 damage that they probably should have done last turn to us. But now our Spiritombs are both that little bit closer to being able to attack, so that is really good news. Here comes the Splitting Arrow. Okay, so we can potentially deal a ton of damage here. We can attach Hiding Energy to our Eternatus VMAX and then Marnie and attack with our Spiritomb. I think that's probably the best thing to do. We'll Building Spite here, get that extra damage on there. We're not going to be able to one-shot, but we're certainly going to get close. We'll retreat down to the Spiritomb and then play the Marnie. We don't really need the Zigzagoon, although I guess we could play it. Just trying to decide here whether Dangerous Drill is worth playing or not. I don't think so. Let's just Marnie. We don't really need to Zigzagoon because we're going to be half hitting it anyway. So we don't need that extra damage. And this is perfect because we've found boss's orders, so next turn we can potentially take a knockout on the Zigzagoon if we want to, or if the Decidueye runs away, then we can take a knockout on that also. So that's really, really positive. Right, we are in a really good spot now. A reset stamp, not so good. I shouldn't have said anything. Reset stamp, not so good, but I'm feeling pretty confident because there's 5 prizes for our opponent left to take, and they can't remove our Spiritomb from the field. That means that they're not going to be able to get rid of both of our attackers that can take knockouts on Decidueyes. They're starting to power up another Rowlet, but if that Zigzagoon stays in play, then we probably are going to be able to win the game regardless. Here comes the splitting arrow from our opponent that'll knock out the Spiritomb. And you'd think it'll probably put damage onto the Spiritomb. Oh, they didn't. I was about to say they'd probably put damage onto the Spiritomb as well, but not choosing to do that. Got 3 prizes left to take. Our opponent actually not in a bad spot now either, because they could potentially win the game this turn. We need to get a knockout here. We're going to Marnie and make this as difficult for our opponent as possible. And then we're going to try and get ourselves set up for next turn. So let's put some damage onto the Zigzagoon, I guess. We will Building Spite this Spiritomb and then Anguish Cry. That'll take a knockout on the active if our opponent has access to Energy, Rare Candy, Decidueye, and Gust. Then they win the game. But in order for them to have that, 3 of their 5 cards need to be those. The turf field will get them the Decidueye, no problem. So here's the Decidueye with the turf field stadium. We'll see whether or not they can do anything about this. They've got the Rare Candy as well. So they might be able to get the knockout here on the Spiritomb, but if they can't get rid of the Zigzagoon, then that's not good. 2 energy now onto the Decidueye. There's a Rowlet, no Gust as of yet. Splitting Arrow, they don't have it. Cool, that means we win the game. We've got Eternatus VMAX powered on the bench and ready to go. We'll be able to Gust up one of our opponent's 2 benched Pokemon and take the knockout there. So there you go, Eternatus beating the card that's designed to beat Eternatus. Well, how about that? This deck is pretty good after all. We'll grab the Zigzagoon with the boss's orders. And then Dread End dealing a huge 190 damage. That poor Zigzagoon sent off to the Shadow Realm. So another game here. I've enlisted Matt's help to pair against me. We weren't finding too many good matchups on the ladder. Not good matchups, but like interesting matchups on the ladder. So Matt has chosen a deck here. He's won the coin flip and has elected to go first. And we've got an Eternatus in the active, which is a really, really good start. A VMAX in hand, Vitality Band. Marnie, not an ideal supporter, but definitely worth having. I wonder what Matt is going to be playing here. We'll see how we go. Looks like it's going to be Center Scorch. Interesting that he chose to go first then. You would think that going second would be the way to go with this deck, but that's okay. He's obviously got a strategy in mind. 2 Center Scorch on the bench, as well as a Volcanion in the active. Grabbing a second Volcanion here, discarding the VMAX from the hand. And then looks like just a Dedenne. So filling up that bench pretty quickly, losing a Welder off of that Dedenne as well. That's very awkward. An attachment to the Volcanion. And then just a pass, so this is not a bad start. Would have been better if it was going second. We've got a Pokemon Communication here. What we can do is we can try and get that little combo going that I was talking about in the deck profile, where we can try and potentially find Gust to hit some damage early onto one of these Center Scorches. We'll attach the Vitality Band. I like the Hiding Energy on the active as well. Then we will Crobat, see if we can't get ourselves a Gust. We can't. That's a bit disappointing. We'll just Marnie here to slow our opponent down. Welder decks don't like being Marnied at all. We'll grab ourselves the Spiritomb. We'll Building Spite, and then I think it is going to just be a Power Excel from me. No energy with that Power Excel, which is really, really unfortunate. Power Accelerator not being able to do its job, which means that potentially Matt could benefit here. He could really make up for the fact that he didn't get a really quick start. Did choose to go second as well. Here's the VMAX and an attachment. Here's the Giant Hearth also, discarding a reset stamp there to get 2 fire energy. So does he have Welder in hand? He's got Poker Gear. We could be looking at a Welder here. No, just a Boss's Orders. So that's not ideal from Matt. Doesn't even choose to play it. He just elects to go, no, I'm just going to Flare Starter here, and that's fair. Probably looking to use that boss to try and take a knockout down the track. We'll use Great Ball. Found a VMAX here and a Sableye. What I'll do is I'll grab the Sableye because I might be able to get that cheeky little extra bit of damage onto that benched VMAX with my Eternatus V here. Although it is a gamble, it's a risk, I'm not going to lie. We probably should have just got the VMAX and attacked with it, but that's okay. I'll hold on to this Pokemon Communication, then Crobat for 5. We're looking for 2 energy if we can get them. Nope. Okay. Sure. Well, this is bad. This is really bad. It would have been okay if we had been able to accelerate, but we couldn't. So maybe you should have just got the VMAX and then got a knockout. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to show off the combo a little too much. It's okay. It's okay. The Center Scorch still needs a lot to take a knockout anyway. Let's have a think here. It's got 2 fire energy at the moment, so it's doing 120. So Matt needs to have Welder and Attachment here, and we know that 2 of his 3 cards are fire energy and 1 is a boss. So the chances of Matt having access to that play this turn is pretty slim. And worst case scenario, we can actually just get a knockout on this Center Scorch here. Center Scorch only dealing 160 damage. Okay, so now we are looking for an Energy and an Eternatus VMAX, because we'll be able to deal 270 damage, provided, of course, that we do have a full bench. We've got the Spiritomb here. We can play that down. We can Building Spite on that Spiritomb. Probably should do that to the other one as well, but we'll do that in a minute. Let's use Crobat to try and draw some Pokemon. Here's another Spiritomb. That's pretty good. Actually, we shouldn't have benched that. We should have gone with the research and started looking for another Eternatus, because we are going to lose out on a lot here. We'll just use our attack, Dread, and we'll hold on to the boss's orders, because I like the idea of being able to gust up and knock out a DAA or something like that with a Spiritomb if possible. I forgot in the end to use Spiritomb's ability on the left-hand side. It's still on 20. Dang. I should have just done it when I was thinking about it. Oh well, it doesn't matter. There's another energy on the VMAX on the bench. We really just want energy attachments here. I think that's pretty much all we need. We're being really unlucky to not see them, to be fair. We've got 11 energy in the deck, and we just can't find them. Matt using Boss's Orders to bring out the Sableye and a Flare Starter, so this Center Scorch list not having the best start here. There's an energy after all of that. We can potentially get ourselves going, but what we really need now is a Dark City. Now I'm going to Building Spite on all these Spiritombs. I'm not going to forget them. I'm going to Building Spite on all of them. We might attach an energy to the benched. No, we'll attach to the... yeah, we'll just put it on a Spiritomb. Put it on a Spiritomb, because then if we get the Dark City, we can attack with both. I'm thinking of... I don't want to... Yeah, Marnie's fine. I didn't really want to use Research, because I don't want to lose both bosses. We found Dark City, which is good. We can now retreat this Sableye. We can go into our Spiritomb, and then Anguish Cry and take the knockout. And now a Gust will win us the game, provided that Matt doesn't knock out my benched Eternatus VMAX. If he does that, that'll be very awkward. I'll have to have a chat with him about it if he does that. Especially since I didn't put down another Eternatus V. This is a trap for young players here. Should have put down another Eternatus V so that I could have maintained my bench size. Because I'm going to have to discard a ton of these Dark Pokemon if that VMAX gets knocked out. Here comes the Center Scorch V from Matt. He's got a Pokemon Communication here as well. So he'll be getting rid of a VMAX, a nice shiny rainbow one there. Going back into the deck to grab Eldegoss. So we might be about to see a Welder here. Or possibly even going for the boss, to be fair. Yeah, Boss's Orders, because that will find the knockout on that Eternatus. And like I was talking about, this is big trouble now. Because we are not in a great position. We might have to resort to attacking with our Spiritombs for the rest of the game, which isn't that big of a deal, but I'm not super happy with it. Yeah, so it looks like Did Matt just discard that boss with a quick ball? Is that what just happened? Am I insane? Am I crazy? Crobat? I don't know what's going on anymore. I missed that. I was too busy talking to myself to figure out what was actually going on in the game. I'm sure he didn't. Surely not. Surely he didn't just Eldegoss for a boss just to discard it again. I'm so confused. Matt, did he do it? I don't know. Oh my god. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But on the plus side, now we can attack with Eternatus here and get ourselves some more powered Spiritombs. We can actually even just attach to this Eternatus that we just top decked, which is a really good top deck here. That's probably the safest Pokemon to attach to, because now with all these Pokemon in the field, we Dread End, we're going to do 280 with the Vitality Band. Anything that our opponent promotes to try and stop us from winning the game is going to be knocked out by our combination of Eternatus VMAX in hand and energy. Obviously, the Volcanion is the only thing that won't win us the game. So, I'm feeling good. But this Heatran could be a bit of a pain, because it could potentially switch into the Heatran and then GX and knock us out, and then we'd need to find... How much would we need to find? We'd need to find a couple of Pokemon, to say the very least, and at the moment we're not holding too many Pokemon, so not ideal. Here comes the switch, so we're going to see that Heatran come into the active now. Now probably move a few of these Fire Energies. There's 4 on there, and a Hotburn GX coming out to knock out the Eternatus. Alright, now we're going to just get rid of all of our Crobats here. I think that's pretty much the only thing that we really need to do, is get rid of these, because the rest of our cards are potentially useful. We've got 5 Pokemon in play, so we're doing 150. We need 2 more, or 1 more if it's a Zigzagoon. So, cool. Top deck to Quick Ball. Let's just see how many we can get. Let's go for a Crobat here. Let's be a risky boy for no reason. We'll attach. We'll use Eternatus VMAX. That'll extend the bench again. Here we go. Here's the Crobat. Let's see if we can't find some more Pokemon. Oh, jeez. Well, we found 1. I was about to say we almost lost because of our hubris there. Zigzagoon will go down. Should have just grabbed him the first time. We'll put the 10 on the active and then deal 210. And that'll be a knockout and a win for Eternatus VMAX. Dread End's a pretty good attack, although to be fair, we probably could have lost that one. So this Eternatus deck is really, really fun. Thank you very much to Tord for posting it on Twitter. Hope he doesn't mind that we've taken about 30 minutes of your life to talk about it. I really enjoy it, and it's definitely worth taking a look at if you do have the cash to build up an Eternatus deck online. Thank you everyone for checking this one out with us today. Hopefully you've liked it. If you have, please consider giving the video a like down below. If we can get to like 100 likes, I might do something stupid like ADP the Decidueye. We'll see how we go. But yeah, I think that that's a pretty exorbitant like target. We're not likely to get there. If you want to subscribe to support the channel, consider doing that by clicking the Sableye above the Sableye right now. On the left hand side there are some videos YouTube thinks you like, and in the bottom right hand corner we have our Darkness Ablaze playlist for more deck profiles and gameplay. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you next time for more from the Sableyes.